We're doing our 36.
Great.
Okay.
So it worked.
It worked.
So I guess you'll come up on me? There, me's over there. Hi, this is Paula, Gloria, and this show is called Farther Down the Rabbit Hole. Today I have the opportunity to have as a guest a very important person to the whole process that I'm involved with, which is public access television. In addition to public access television, Richard Speciale is interested in what I'm doing on YouTube. So thank you for joining me on this show.
Thank you for having me, Paula. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, well,
Even though it's early in the morning. What is it, 11:30?
No, it's 1:30.
Okay.
Now, although Richard is a very pale person, he's a very typical New Yorker. Most of the work that you do goes on at night here.
Goes on at night, yeah. Well, I should mention that I work here at the network MNN. I take care of the studios, and we're open till midnight. We're normally open from noon till midnight. So,
Right.
yeah. So this is the time when most people can get here, when they have spare time. Most people can
Right.
get here and have the opportunity to actually produce a show.
Right. And that's another important thing, that public access is something that is community-based. So if you have a message, Manhattan Neighborhood Network will support that message with equipment, but you need to find the crew, and the crew needs to be trained. So can you talk about how that's done?
Well, unlike some other public access or public television institutions, our mission statement says that we should be training people in how to use the media, how to actually make media, how to work cameras, editing rooms, control rooms, camcorders, microphones, how to mix sound, how to actually make your own media for either cable television or for the web. So our mission statement says that we are to teach the citizens of Manhattan to do this, and that's what we do, rather than some of the other facilities actually, they supply a crew. Here, you supply the crew, but we supply the training and the studio, so all the below-the-line costs.
So it works out great, except that some people don't like to get up, at noon. But
Right,
so thanks
right,
for coming in early.
Not a problem.
The other thing I wanted to ask you is, what do you, well, first of all, how did you get into public access? How did you get this position, and how long have you been here?
Well, I got this position because I was hanging around the studios a lot, and I guess they got sick of looking at me and saying, well, we can only tell them what to do if we pay them. But I had been
that trick.
Yeah, I've been a producer here. I've had a program here since 1995, and MNN came into being around 93, and in the 80s and even once or twice in the 70s, I actually had programs on public access. So I actually go pretty far back, but not really with the opportunity to use a studio like this to host my own show. It was mainly found footage and art pieces I was airing, because there was no
art pieces.
Yeah, there was no facility like MNN. In other words, I was either putting these pieces together on the job, when nobody was looking, or paying.
When you were at another studio, like ABC? Or
yeah, when, either that or paying, film video arts or...
So it was sort of creativity on the fly?
Yes, on the fly, yeah.
And it was expensive in those days, equipment, right?
Oh, yes, equipment is expensive. I used to rent it, used to run up thousands of dollars on the credit card, and just like, I hope I don't lose any of this, I hope it doesn't break. But, so MNN fills in that gap that people who don't have the opportunity, people who don't have a credit card or don't have the opportunity, don't have the money to pay for that.
Right. So they can get that part done. They just need to get the skills to use the equipment and find other people to help them to produce their show.
Yes.
Great.
It's all a community effort here.
So you really go back as far as Harold Channer and Joe Friendly.
Well, I didn't have
Ugly
a
George even,
Yeah, I
right?
didn't really have a regularly scheduled show, not until '95. I didn't at all. It was just occasional, every once in a while I'd put something together, and that would take me, a long time. Now I do a live show, which is a discipline I needed, and
that's really nice. I can't tell you, as a producer, it's so much easier to relate to staff who actually have a show themselves. Did you feel you were kind of moving into new territory? when you did your own show that you see the world in a different way? Because I can also see when I come in, I'm stressed out and I'm leaning on people, and you know.
Well, I do see the world in a different way. I can.
The MNN world.
The MNN world, yeah. I mean, you do get a different perspective, obviously, if you're a client than if you're staff here. So I've kind of gotten it from on both sides. Yeah, I mean, unless you can ask me about something specifically, you know.
Well, the creative process.
The creative process here is very interesting, and it's kind of like I do a live show, and actors will tell you, do live theater. There's nothing like live theater, and
Really?
It's absolutely true.
Actors say that.
Actors say that because, you know, doing film or television to videotape or to film, you can always do a second take, no matter how much pressure is there.
Oh.
It's not the final one.
So it's not even about call-ins.
No,
it's
not
just
really.
live. It's just the energy of being in the moment.
An interview, I mean, I did an interview years
yeah.
ago with somebody who had immigrated from China, and we did a half-hour live and then a half-hour taped. And the live half-hour was much more interesting, much more lively, much more electricity. When we both knew that we were just going to tape, it was a different energy.
Really, and you
so
could
it's
change
always
it.
it's always different.
But when you were going live with the guy from China, your time is what time? When is your show?
Well, that was many years ago, so that was on a Tuesday night. But my show now is on 10:30 p.m. on Thursdays on Channel 67. It's called DVTV Live, and it is a call-in show. We ask people to participate. That's why I don't do shows early in the morning. Participate via the phone, call in, and that's what I've been doing. Yeah, and that's what I've been doing for years and years and years. I mean, that's one of the most important.
Okay, so 10:30 on Thursday,
10:30 p.m.
Channel 67.
Yes.
You're going to see Rich Speciale, and the show's called?
DVTV Live.
DVTV. So DV is digital video?
Well, it doesn't actually stand for anything. It was a silly name I came up with when the show actually started out as a technology show. If you remember, in 1999, the internet was going to change the world. The Firewire was going to change all of our lives by turning us all into movie producers, and, you know, the world was going to be a new and better place in the 21st century. So I did that. You know, it wasn't quite as optimistic as the program wasn't quite as optimistic. I did take a critical eye, look at the technology with a critical eye. But yeah, so that show lasted from September of 1999 till September 11th of 2001.
All right.
And after September 11th, I said, I'm not going to do a gadget show anymore.
Really?
Got to go back to talking about, you know, your rights and reminding people to read 1984 and all of that.
Okay, so that's really the gist of the show right here.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you, what happened September 11th, 2001 in Manhattan Neighborhood Network?
I have to relate a little. I'm just going to relate
Sure.
a little bit of what I was going through that morning.
As a staff member.
As a staff member, because in the weeks, nobody really remembers this. September 11th was primary day. It was primary day in New York City. There was a mayoral election, there was city council elections. And for the 6 weeks leading up to September 11th, we had a project that turned out to be living hell. For 6 weeks, we'd never done election coverage, and we had these wannabe clowns coming in and, doing debates for the, city council candidates, doing debates and stuff like that. So we produced dozens of programs and aired them, and, this turned out to be living hell because we had never done it before, and there were a lot of unexpected things, and a lot of stuff fell on my lap. So anyway, long story short.
So you were a little stressed out, under-rested?
Yeah, I mean, up until we actually finished the project officially 2 minutes to midnight on September 10th, because the last program before primary day.
Right.
That the last program aired and finished airing, and we were through with our obligations.
You could go home and crash.
Yes. So I did go home and crash, and The next morning, the morning of September 11th, I was supposed to open up here 9:30 in the morning. So at 8:40,
9:30 in the morning?
yeah. So at 8:45, when the first plane hit the I don't know, I guess it was the
Right.
North Tower, at 8:45, I am literally sitting in my bathtub, taking a bath.
Just a second, you have to open up at 9:30 and you're
Well,
in the bathtub at 8:45?
yes.
That's a New York,
Well,
that's New York
yeah,
time.
well, you
That's
know,
time management.
The R train, if I time it right,
I love
could
it.
do that.
I love
could
it.
do that. But anyway, so on the morning of September 11th, at the moment that the first plane hit, I am literally sitting in the bathtub thinking these thoughts. I'm thinking, it's going to be such a nice day today. Today is going to be a good day. I'm going to be relaxed. I have no deadlines. I am literally, and this is true, I swear to God. I am literally thinking these thoughts when I hear on the radio, and I have the news radio on, WCBS, and, you know, that's what I listen to in the bathroom. Had the news radio on, and suddenly the helicopter guy is on, and he catches my attention, and he said that a small plane had hit one of the towers.
At 8:45? You
At
heard that
8:45.
on the radio?
Yes, I heard, and it was actually 3 eyewitness reports, because not only the helicopter traffic guy who comes on every 10 minutes, he was at a vantage point of George Washington Bridge, and then the two anchor people who were anchoring that hour of news on the radio, they happened to be on 52nd Street. They had a window looking out, and they said,
On 52nd Street?
yes, and they said, we saw exactly, yes, there was a big explosion.
But 52nd Street's really far away.
Oh, you could see the Trade Center from 40 miles away.
But not an airplane going into it.
It was a pretty big explosion.
Oh, the explosion, yes.
Yes, they
For
saw
sure
the explosion, yeah.
Yes.
Because the guy in the helicopter said that he thought it was a small plane.
Uh-huh.
So that was my first, you know, it's like a plane hit the, and I'm thinking, I just looked outside, it's clear. I thought of the, you know, in the 40s, a plane hit the, a military plane hit the, hit the Empire State Building, but that was because of fog and misnavigation or whatever.
I thought it was a clear day.
But September 11th was a perfectly clear day, so I'm thinking, why would a plane go in? Geez, you know, this is strange. So I'm sitting in the bathtub, you know, and I'm listening to all this, and I was like, well, geez, I got to get to work, and, you know, I'm gonna go turn on the TV and watch this. This must be something, the way they're describing it, because they got more and more excited on the radio. Get out, you know, get out of the bathtub, get a towel, and I'm literally standing on the bed with wearing a towel and holding the socks in my hand and watching this picture on my TV of the two towers that, you know, or one of the towers smoking, and then as soon as the TV came on, boom, number 2. So that was about.
Did you see the plane on number 2?
I saw number 2.
At what time would that be? That'd be
that
before
would be
9:30?
that would be no, that was like just before 9 a.m. I think.
Before 9 a.m.
I think it was like 8:58 or 8:59.
Because I think the second one came at 9:03.
9:03, whatever time it was. Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah. So anyway, to complete a little story, which has gone on far too long, I eventually got dressed. I got down to 6th Street. I look up, see these two towers burning, you know, smoke coming out, and I'm just sitting there.
From 6th Street?
From 6th Street and 3rd Avenue by Cooper Square,
yeah.
So, you know, I'm in a, like, a crowd of us just like looking up there, you know, in disbelief, in shock, and then somebody in the crowd says, I just heard on the radio they're going to close the subways down. So I said, oh, I better get to work. I don't know why.
Right.
I thought that automatically, they're going to close the subways, I better get to work. Right. Why didn't I stay home or something? But, you know, so I got on the subway.
Of course, work is farther away,
yeah,
which is kind of a safe way to go.
I don't know if, farther away.
If work was down on Battery Street, I don't think I would have gone to work.
I think I would have thought twice about it. I guess the, you know, somebody said when you're in shock and you don't know what to do, you do what's familiar.
Right.
And I just did what's familiar, and I barely remember coming here, although I do remember I cut through. I transferred the train at Times Square because, you know, for a couple of seconds I had that thought, well, gee, should I really transfer to Times Square if there's a terror attack? And then 2 seconds later, I'm like, fuck that. I'm going through Times Square. I don't care what's going on.
Right.
I'm not going to let anybody alter my, you know, subway riding habits. So, and I got here, and the 2 towers had collapsed by the time I got here. So you wanted to ask me specifically about September 11th, what happened that day, because we did.
Here at MNN.
Yeah, I mean, basically we had, on the day of September 11th, there were very few people here because most people's shift started after the planes had hit. The subways were shut down. The entire island of Manhattan was kind of, you know, you couldn't get into it. And most of the people here, earning less than they should do, live in the outer boroughs, so they couldn't actually make it into MNN. So we were here.
Most of the people earning less than they should don't live here because they can't afford to?
Manhattan, yeah.
Manhattan, very interesting comment,
yeah,
okay.
Well, whatever. You know, we work for a not-for-profit, so. So, you know, many of us who do work in this building actually live in the boroughs rather than Manhattan. Many people couldn't get in. There was a skeleton crew here. There were only very few producers actually showed up.
Right.
And so we basically, the decision was made to close up at 3 o'clock that day.
Okay.
And then without any an official word on what we were going to do the next day.
Okay, why don't we have the roll-in of September clues, and then you maybe fill out anything that might inspire you.
Okay, please, yeah.
Are we ready for that roll-in, Joe? It will be, you just have to make that click, and then we just have to make sure we can hear it because he hasn't heard it before. So it would be studio to...
Yeah, I actually have heard it, but...
September clues?
Oh, no, I haven't heard September clues. So, please, yes.
Yeah, then I'll do my hearing thing and explain why
That's what I thought you were talking about.
Most who saw and survived this day still had trouble believing what they saw. The phrase you heard over and over again was, "It seemed just like a movie."
The tower is collapsed.
Yes. It appears, because of the angle, I think, that the towers are leaning, and I don't think that that is actually the case.
And as Tom ironically points out, the weather, absolutely perfect day in New York City.
Tom told us right at the time of the attack, he said it was sunny, 64 degrees, and dry.
The weather, I take it, where you are is just about picture perfect.
Picture perfect, yes. It's very clear outside.
You're looking at the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan, where just a few minutes ago we're told that a plane, some reports are that it was a small commuter plane, crashed into the upper floors of one of the Twin Towers.
Also collapsed in flames. About 50,000 people work in the World Trade Center, and witnesses say that they saw.
In the municipal building, City Hall, Gracie Mansion, which is the mayor's residence, all things that could be considered.
A horrific scene here. There's debris flying through the air over the East River here into
Let's go to the trade tower again, because, John, we now have a... What do we have? We don't...
It looks like a new plume, a new large plume of smoke.
Is the mic's mute? You maybe should pause if he's not watching. Or I don't know.
The crash has left fiery, gaping holes in the 110-story buildings.
It is a sad, it is a sad, it is a sad and tragic day for America.
Oh, wow. We just saw, oh my goodness, another live picture. Oh, wow.
This life goes by. This life.
And hitting the obscured second tower of the World Trade Center.
From my view here,
This is the static background.
There's the wider shot of the two towers. Now, both towers have been hit by planes now in the last half hour, and again, I say we are totally powerless in knowing what's going on here. Slow motion of the plane coming in and hitting the obscured second tower of the World Trade Center. This tape of the airplane flying in and hitting the World Trade Center. What's going on here? Can't be a coincidence like this.
I thought I told you.
This is no bomb from inside. This is, as you put it, a terrorist attack. There's no two ways about it.
The perception of life is not what you might think it is. The perception of life. The perception of life.
that. We do have an eyewitness. A little more than that. We do have an eyewitness. A little more than that. We do have an eyewitness.
Plane coming in high speed.
Good evening, everyone, or good morning, actually. We have breaking news, this out of downtown Manhattan. A plane has allegedly crashed into the World Trade Center. You're looking at live pictures right now from News Chopper 7. At 8:51, that is the time right now, just a few moments ago, allegedly a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. Very little known. We are taking live pictures. You're looking at it. News Chopper 7. I believe John Del Giorno is in the air. John, if you can hear me, what do you see up there? Okay, so John's not with us at this moment, but Associated Press is reporting very little. A little more than that. We do have an eyewitness. A little more than that. We do have an eyewitness. A little more than that. We do have an eyewitness. A little more than that. We do have an eyewitness.
Both flights diverting them towards New York City. By 8:45 local time, the first plane is over the city heading for the World Trade Center. The American Airlines Boeing 767 with 92 people on board flies straight into the North Tower. A fireball erupts from a gaping hole in its north base. 3 minutes past 9, the United Airlines plane with 65 on board was directed towards the South Tower. The plane plowed into the building, exploding in a massive fireball.
Okay. I guess we're still raw. Oh, I'll wait until we have an image. Oops. If you come up on me, I'll get us back. Okay. So, have you seen September Clues or heard about September Clues?
I've heard about it. I just took a very, look at this tape from across the studio, so I couldn't see all the details. I would love to have every one of those pieces of footage and take them apart. For the most part, I'm not buying anything that they said. I used to do 3D animation myself. Mm-hmm. Yes, it can look pretty sophisticated. But
no, I think they're saying it didn't look sophisticated when you have the bridges on one side of the building and then it's on the other side of the building.
You don't need.
That's not very sophisticated.
Yeah, you didn't need
like
3D.
It's fake.
You didn't need 3D Earth technology to do
that.
3D animation. I did it. I did it in the early '90s. So.
No, but what I'm saying is, it's just talking about fraud, that we didn't see what really happened. That's all it's saying.
Well, what is it saying? I mean, Again, I looked at all those images. Most of the things I saw.
But just the bridge.
Yeah, most of the things I saw.
If the bridge is on one shot exactly the same on one side, and then on another shot on the other side,
was it from two different camera angles? Of course, the bridge is going to be different. I mean, if I'm over here, the tree is on. There's a tree in back of you. If I lean this way, the tree is on this side of you. If I lean this way, the tree is on this side of you. So different perspectives. So that didn't. I don't know, I'd have to really look at it, but that didn't really prove anything to me. Of course.
So you feel that what we saw on 9/11 was accurate?
Well, let me comment on, again, I'm commenting on specifically what I just saw in that videotape.
I mean, what you
the
saw
things
was
of double images.
Part 9. It was part 9.
Yeah, well.
There had been 8 parts before, going more carefully.
Okay, so I can only comment on this. And
I was fast-tracking you just because I knew you knew television. I knew
well, let me comment on this. I'm not buying,
or about the chroma key and the edge on,
Right. I didn't see any evidence of chroma key.
That it didn't look like a clear day.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me take one of those points, the double edge. That is caused by TV transmission. Not everything goes through digitally today. A number of things go through analog stage. It has to be broadcast, and broadcast signals sometimes bounce off of buildings. Double images in live reports isn't that unusual. Seeing things tilted in a live report where they have to set up a tripod so quick, that's not that unusual.
But how about me and funky MNN? I could go down to Union Square with my $300 camera and get a fresher shot than any of that stuff seen. And we're known as being amateur, not professional.
Well, what's your point, though?
Bad equipment. That it didn't look like a clear day. It looked
oh, the
cloudy,
differences,
colors.
Yeah, the differences in colors
that
come
I could
through.
do better with my $300 camera.
Well, yes, you could, but remember that these people, all these people had to get their shots on in minutes. They didn't have time to white balance. They didn't really have time.
I don't white balance. I just push and play a $300 cheap camera.
Yeah.
And
but
it's crisp and fresh.
It's crisp and fresh because you look at the tape. You're not sending the signals through the air. So there's technical things that could explain I don't think that tape really proves anything, and I don't think they make a very good engineering point.
So you feel that what was shown on television is what happened. And
most of it was. Now let me comment on the fakery, though, because one of the shots I saw when I related my little story about, you know, getting out of the bathtub, turning on the TV, and actually seeing the second plane hit on television.
Live?
Live, yeah.
Did you know there was no live shot? The live shots, the
well,
planes came later.
let me say what I have to say about this.
You may think that you saw, you may have seen an explosion.
What happened?
Were there buildings? This is an interesting part, because sometimes we can be deceived. I am all the time.
Were there towers downtown, though? If no planes went into them, were there towers downtown? Were the Twin Towers there?
Oh, I'm not saying nobody denies that the towers fell.
So,
Richard, nobody denies that.
Right.
And when they say that if you're questioning television images, that you're questioning the towers falling down, I think that's very unfair. That's not what people are saying. They're just saying when you live in a television reality, you better question that not everything seen on television is reality.
Well, like I said, that shot that I saw that was live, let's say allegedly live, right? I saw it pretty much as it happened.
Because if you're coming out at 8:40.
But that shot that I saw that morning, I've never seen again. So that may relate to what you're calling TV fakery. As for somebody putting together all these massive these massive images live.
Just a second. Somebody, first of all, you wouldn't have cameras out there until an event happened. We don't have TV crews.
Yes, they do.
Just
they have cameras out every single morning. I watch the news every single morning. I see the New Jersey Turnpike. I see aerial shots.
But not every building is covered, so you could backtrack, 10 minutes and see that the airplane went into it.
Right. And they didn't have any live shots of the first thing. They had the crew that was with the fire department. There was a French crew with the fire department. They caught the only image that I've seen, the only video image that I've seen from Canal Street of the first plane hitting.
The Naudet brothers.
Yes, yes.
I think that was the second hit.
And I believe that was the first. That was the first
because
hit? Yeah.
Okay.
But I think
but you
all
saw
this stuff.
But you think you saw the second hit live.
I know I saw two towers.
But an airplane?
Well, the one thing that looked almost comical to me was there was an outline of an airplane that you could clearly see. Let me say
you mean the hole?
Yeah.
And then the lady waving from it eventually. But that's another story.
I don't know about the lady waving from it. I'm saying there was a hole in the building that looked like a cartoon picture where a plane had gone through. But I think...
You saw that? You were aware of that at the time?
I went outside. It was there. You could see. That was the hole in the building.
Oh, that was with your eyes.
It was with my eyeballs. That's nobody faked that.
Because you live in the East Village.
Yeah, so I went out there and looked. I looked up in the sky. Let me bring this back.
Still pretty far away.
Yeah, it's still pretty far away.
But you'll have to. Someday we'll walk down there and you show me where you saw it.
I mean, right on the corner of 6th and 3rd. Here is something. As we're having this conversation, as we're trying to divine what knocked down the towers, I think that all of you 9/11 truth seekers
destroyed the towers,
whatever. I think all of you 9/11 truth seekers are actually, in a way, aiding the people that you were trying to fight against. Because just take this one fact. Take this one fact. There's a lot of dispute about what hit the Pentagon, how big a hole a plane would have made. It was a missile, and of course there's no surveillance tapes, which is really suspicious. We can argue a lot about whether a plane can make a hole that big or a plane can disappear.
Little, I think it's that little.
That little, that big, whatever, the size of the hole.
You can't fit a plane in
the
that.
Jet fuel, whatever. We can argue about that for a long time. You're not an expert in plane crashes. I'm not. So it's kind of a mute argument. But why are we arguing about it when something hit the Pentagon? Does it matter if it was a plane, a Frisbee, a spitball? This was the Pentagon. All of our lives, we were raised to think that, you know, they have missiles on the roof of the Pentagon, and anything that comes near the Pentagon, anything that's a threat, would be blown up. And here the Pentagon is hit, what is it, an hour and 20 minutes after the Trade Center is hit, when they know it's under attack, when they know that they're already grounding planes. I mean, the people in the Pentagon, are already grounding planes around the country. And they're tracking this plane. They're watching this one plane flying towards Washington, and it hits the Pentagon. So we can argue whether it was, you know, whether it was a plane, a missile, whether it was likely it was a plane, because there's no video images of it, and we know there's surveillance tapes going on all around the Pentagon. But the point is, something hit the Pentagon. That is the smoking gun. We're not going to find it in the details and the size of the hole, or whether a missile hit the Trade Center or a plane or whatever. We're kind of missing the headline and burying the lead, in that the big thing is something hit the Pentagon. We don't need to bring it too far down the rabbit hole, if you will.
No, but I'll tell you why I'm interested in knowing exactly what hit it, is because along with these images, very quickly we were given the answer of who hit it. So if
9:30 that morning, because I heard on Fox News before I left the house. Before I left the house, went out onto 6th Street and looked up at those buildings. They said bin Laden's name.
Right.
9:30.
Right. Now,
so that's always suspicious to me. Yeah.
What was suspicious?
Well, when they, you know, when there's a big crime in the city and the cops, we have a suspect, you know, some horrible murder of some, you know, usually some young white girl or something happens, it makes the headlines, and then, you know, the next day the cops say, well, we have a suspect. Well, they always say we have a suspect because they always get a suspect, because you need a suspect at that point. Bin Laden denied he denied doing it at first, and then he took credit for it. I don't know.
You're pretty okay. So let me do the rabbit hole thing, though.
Okay.
So what you're saying is the fact that so quickly the suspect was there before there was any time to investigate, and footage around the Pentagon was confiscated and so on. You're questioning that, right? You think that couldn't be so.
Well, look, about the footage around the Pentagon, they said one surveillance camera, and they released that tape. The guy across the street from me has a deli. It's 25 feet wide. It's about 30 feet deep. You can hardly move around. The aisles are this big. And he has 6 surveillance cameras in his deli.
Okay.
He's not the Pentagon. The Pentagon has one camera, so we all know that's crap.
I do see where you're going on that. So what I'm saying is you've taken one jump to not blame the wrong person. You see what I'm saying? If bin Laden didn't do it, then, you know, it could be that the second possibility might also not be true. That's all I'm proposing. Yeah. And that's why this 9/11 TV fakery, as somebody who's been in the 9/11 truth movement for 3 years, this was an area I was like warned not to go. Do not go into TV fakery. These people are crazy. Anyone who thinks that airplanes didn't go into the World Trade Center are crazy.
Right.
And because you're in your group and you want to be accepted by your group, you want to do what will keep you in the group. And so you don't do TV fakery. In which case, going outside of your group, some people who don't know anything about it, you know, however they've achieved their balance and their way to deal with this, as all New Yorkers have, then I found that when I start to present things like the television idea and so on, that I can find fresh people who can embrace that maybe television isn't the reality. Maybe we don't see correct images, and maybe there is a vested interest that could benefit. Maybe there is a drugs and weapons cartel that isn't part of our government, that can afford sophisticated PR, that even that secondary thing that you're talking about, if it's not bin Laden, then the way I knew it from the 3 years, then it's got to be Bush and Cheney, it's got to be stand-down orders, the guys at the air traffic controllers, why didn't they see anything? Well, maybe they didn't see the notes in some PR person's notebook. Maybe there never really was any airplane, and then people who are talking about it saying, you can't fly at such speeds, so that in one image you see the airplane here, and you clock the time. In order for it to get here, you calculate the speed, and it exceeds what an airplane can go.
Yeah.
And then, there's the skill of the driver.
Right.
The official theory says you can't go from a Cessna up to a 747. And then
I think the you know, looking at those tapes that I've seen and the evidence that I saw in the buildings, those guys were really good pilots for their first. That was the first time they flew a 747. You see that first tape.
Impossible in
directions. You know, he goes in and he just banks the plane right at the right time, so it hits right in the middle of the building. So I don't know. I find it difficult to believe that these were first-time pilots. But here's the whole thing. I think that. I don't think we're ever going to know the truth.
No,